And welcome everyone to Beyond the Forecast. Another Monday for you, but this week it's not a free week for us here. Beyond the Forecast, we are actually going to be focusing on fire danger, fire weather, things that go into what we need to worry about when we're talking about fire danger. So all this week, we'll be talking with DNR or relating things like lightning to wildfires, but everything you need to know about fire danger or fire weather danger, we have it this week for you. So this week we are going to talk about fire danger, but starting off today, we are going to talk about lightning, how it's formed, and why we're talking about lightning in this concept, because believe it or not, lightning can be the main cause of many wildfires, and in fact has been here in northern Michigan. So we're going to talk about lightning, and then meteorologist John Gross is going to take us into air quality and the hazards associated with it, because once we get into sometimes those thick clouds of wildfire smoke, yeah, air quality can suffer, and it can be for days, possibly weeks on end. And then we take another peek into our podcast from last week with meteorologist Haley Fischetti. But first up, let's deep dive back in time to this day in weather history. This goes back to April 7th, 1987. International Falls, Minnesota, which is up on the Canadian border, always usually the coldest spot in the United States. Well, this day in history, back in 1987, they hit a record 71 degrees for this day. Kind of crazy when you think that Miami, the same day, hit their record low high of 66 degrees. So in International Falls, Minnesota, it was 71, record high, while Miami, all the way down towards the tip of Florida, had their record low high of 66 degrees. Goes to show you, it doesn't always matter where you're at for temperatures. Trivia time. All right, now back on Friday, we asked you, how is a rainbow formed? Essentially, what two things do you need to create a rainbow? And yeah, of course, it's sun and rain. Sun and rain. I almost picked thunder and clouds, but it's sun and rain. So today's trivia question, we want to know, what is the center of a hurricane called? Is it the eye, the hole, the open, or the center? Now, you weigh in. That QR code right there, scan it with your phone, take it to the answers, you choose your answer, and then we can see how everybody kind of filters out. But is it A, the eye, B, the hole, C, the open, or D, the center? And we'll have that answer for you tomorrow. There you go. Viewer photo of the day, brought to you by Great Rooms. This one comes from Wendy Hunt. Now, Wendy snapped a great photo of the sun peeking through over that ice-covered tree landscape, and it was absolutely gorgeous. She titled it Pretty but Vicious. Well done, Wendy. That is a spectacular picture, and thank you again for sending that in, and thank you to Great Rooms for sponsoring that viewer photo. Now, let's dive into the first episode of this week for Beyond the Forecast. I'm going to be here talking to you about lightning and what it means to wildfires and fire danger when we start seeing lightning in those dry conditions. We'll have that coming up right after the break. And welcome back, everyone, to Beyond the Forecast. Now, this week we're going to be focusing on fire danger and fire weather. What leads to the fire danger that we see out there across northern Michigan when it comes to the weather aspect of things? And what do they take in steps of precaution against fire danger and fire weather? So what we're going to be talking about today is lightning. Lightning is a source of starting some of those wildfires out there. It was just about 10 years ago in northern Michigan that a lightning strike hit a tree, and an ember from that strike sat in that tree smoldering for about a week before it started the eventual wildfire. So lightning is definitely a culprit when it comes to starting wildfires. So let's take a look at lightning and how it forms and what the dangers are of lightning, but also safety when it comes to lightning. Because if you can hear thunder, you need to take cover, because that is close enough for lightning to strike and possibly create issues. So whenever we say the severe weather possibilities are cloud to ground lightning, that is definitely a player in severe weather. So here's a look at the warm air that is creating that thunderstorm out there, like we showed you during Severe Weather Awareness Week. That warm air is going aloft and it starts producing those storm clouds. Now, when we take a look at how lightning is kind of developed, you have rain and you have those crystals of colder air, that moisture that is crystallized up there, and they start colliding in that storm cloud. You have that warm air racing up, and then you also have them falling, and they're colliding all throughout that big storm. Now, as they start to do that, you have positive and negative charges. That's what it creates when they collide, the positive and the negative. And that's where the lightning starts to take shape. That's where it comes from, is those collisions cause those positives and negatives. The positives go up to the top of the cloud, the negatives at the bottom, but at the surface, you can see the positives. So what happens is you start off with that little bit of negative and positive connecting, and then that negative connects to another positive. And you can see right there, that negative strike met up with that positive down here, and it created that lightning strike that is smoldering in the grass. So energy from the negative charge meets the leader of the positive charge, which equals that flash, that lightning. And then the flash, believe it or not, is what creates thunder. But light travels faster than sound, so you don't hear it right away. But that just goes to show you how lightning is created. Now, just because it's not in the center of the storm doesn't mean you're safe from lightning. In fact, lightning can strike all the way at the leading edge of that storm, or the anvil. So that positive charge out here at the tip, that could be miles away from the actual center of the storm. That's why if you can hear thunder, you're in the range of lightning. So that's when you want to start taking cover, not as the storm is on you. As soon as you can start hearing thunder, you need to start thinking, where do I have to go to be safe from lightning? So the lightning facts out there, like this graphic tells you, when thunder roars, go indoors. That's actually a pretty good quote. I like that one. But lightning can strike miles away from the parent storm. Yes, you have the flashes throughout the actual cloud and storm itself, but those positive charges can be out at the leading edge of that storm and can strike miles away. So notice all of these storms, or all these positive and negative charges, continue to strike in the storm, but also far away from the storm. The other thing that you want to avoid is water and metal. Conductors. You do not want to be anywhere near that when it comes to lightning. You can see the lightning strike right on that lamp, on the bridge, in the water. So the best thing you can do is stay away from these items during an electrical storm or lightning storm, because those electrical currents can travel easily through water and metal. That's why we always say, ground yourself when dealing with electricity. But stay away from water, wet items, metal objects such as fences, or also poles. Just be extremely careful. You definitely don't want to be out in these, but if you are out in these, don't take shelter under a tree, don't take shelter under metal, do not be near water. Definitely, if you can, find a vehicle. That's better. You're grounded. You have tires, rubber. But lightning tends to strike the tallest object in open space. Remember that as well. I can tell you how many times we've seen lightning or just even a normal rainstorm come through, but there's a lightning strike or two at our tower on Mount Dighton. Because it is so high in the air, it's easy for lightning to reach. So it always, or most usually, goes to the tallest items in an open space. So if you take a look at this graphic of the football field, field goal posts, the stands, definitely don't want to be in these areas when lightning is moving through. Now, avoid open fields, the top of hills, ridges, trees, and other tall objects. Valleys, probably the best thing to be. So here's a look at a fun fact for you. A lot of people always wonder what lightning is capable of and why we always warn against lightning. Lightning is hotter than the surface of the sun, 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit or more. That's how hot lightning is. And this is why it plays into fire danger. Lightning, when it strikes a tree, think about making a small fire, right? And you put in kindling and you put in things to help start the fire, and you see the little embers down there. Well, when lightning hits a tree, that 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit or more is in that tree. So if you get little smolders and little embers sitting in that tree, it's just going to sit there and smolder and smolder and smolder until something happens where it can take off. And that's why when lightning hits a tree, you can usually see it's carved out inside, because it just sits there in embers and it starts smoldering. Now, imagine a dry forest or a dry field next to a forest, and that ember continues to grow and grow and grow and then falls into that dry grass. You end up with a wildfire. Or even if just lightning hits in that dry grass and starts a wildfire. Or if lightning hits a tree, knocks it over, and it has embers with it. That's how you get those wildfires. That's why dry conditions and thunderstorms don't mix. Lightning is going to start that fire, and it doesn't matter how hard it's raining, isn't going to help much, that is for sure. So that is how lightning forms, and that is why lightning is usually a culprit when it comes to wildfires. Over the years, we've seen in Canada millions of acres burning created by one single lightning bolt. So there you go. I'm Chief Meteorologist Michael Stevens for Beyond the Forecast. And coming up next on Beyond the Forecast, we jump into air quality with meteorologist John Gross, and he tells us all about how to protect ourselves and staying safe when air quality is poor. Love that right after the break.
Hey there, everybody. Meteorologist John Gross, and today we are going to be talking about what exactly is air quality and what exactly does the air quality index mean to you and myself as far as how clean versus how, well, not clean the air is, and what exactly are we breathing in when we're talking about air quality alert days and when we're talking about the air quality index, otherwise known as AQI, getting above a certain threshold. So I want to go ahead and start with a photo. This was taken from the New York Times in New York City a few years back. As you can see, you're talking about very poor air quality here with those oranges and yellow looks to the sky within the air. This was a day in New York City when you were talking about the air quality index over 500. Now, to put that in perspective, we'll go over exactly what those numbers mean in just a sec, but as you're talking about the air quality index, when you start to get those numbers above 100, that's when it starts to become unhealthy pretty much for anybody who has a respiratory system, otherwise known as lungs, helping you breathe in air to pretty much keep yourself alive. So not good news when you're talking about the air quality looking scenes like this. So again, AQI, that is the short algorithm for what we're talking about and what we mean by air quality index. So that is the indicator of air pollutants and the health effects that come along with when you're talking about poor air quality. So here's the charts, and here's a look at those numbers. Remember, we were talking about over 500 in that photo we showed you into New York City. When you start to get those numbers above 300, that's at the highest category you can get, pretty much just meaning you're talking about very hazardous conditions. Now, when you have the numbers anywhere from 100 or less, that's what we call acceptable, and usually within a normal day, you're talking about those numbers anywhere from 50 to near 100. But once you start to get the numbers above 100, that's when it starts to become unhealthy, especially right there, 100, 150, even towards 200. That's when we have to start talking about sensitive groups, pretty much meaning if you have asthma, if you have respiratory issues, or at least pre-existing respiratory issues, not a good idea to be venturing outside or just taking a walk or a run. It's a better idea to make sure you're protecting yourself and staying indoors where you can control how the air is being circulated within wherever you might be living. Now, here's a look at the 5 main pollutants that we do talk about when the air quality can become very, very bad, depending on where exactly you're located. And those 5 include ground level ozone. You're also talking about particulate pollution that can just come from any car. You're also talking about carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen dioxide. Again, those are the 5 main pollutants that we look at, or at least environmentalists look at, to determine how clean the air actually is. So things that can happen when you're talking about air quality not looking the best, otherwise known as an air quality alert day. We can talk about air quality alerts being issued even by the National Weather Service. So here's a look at some of the side effects that you probably can obtain or at least suffer from if you are experiencing a poor air quality day and you happen to be outside for a longer period of time. You can even talk about headaches. You can talk about irritated eyes, sinus congestion. You can also talk about fatigue, difficulty breathing, just a lot of those particulates in the atmosphere. You also could talk about chest pains, asthma attacks, especially if you have pre-existing asthma or respiratory issues, irritations within your throat, or even increased coughing. Those are main things that, unfortunately, we see as side effects with us humans, or even animals as well, when you're talking about poor air quality. So what can you do to prevent yourself from experiencing some of those side effects if we're talking about a poor air quality day? Well, staying informed. with the Environmental Protection Agency, otherwise known as the EPA, the National Weather Service, or people like myself, letting you know if we have air quality alerts in play for a certain day or a time frame, trying to just limit the amount of time that you are spending outdoors. Again, keeping yourself within an environment where you can control how the air is being circulated. If you have a dehumidifier, if you're talking about closing the windows, making sure that you're keeping a lot of that outside air from getting inside. Another good tip is if you have to travel anywhere, there usually is a button now on many vehicles that allows you to keep the air circulating within the cabin versus bringing outside air into your vehicle. So that's another way to keep the outside air from intruding wherever you might be. Minimizing gas-powered equipment and vehicles to make sure that you're not contributing to the poor air quality that is already existing, as well as just trying not to burn anything, causing any smoke to be released into the atmosphere that can make the air quality just that much worse, and making sure that you're able to just breathe normally and healthy. I'm Meteorologist John Gross for Beyond the Forecast.
Thanks, John. That is great information to keep us safe during those times of poor air quality. Now, coming up next, we take a peek at our podcast from last week, talking about that big system that gave us ice, but also severe weather. We'll have more on that right after the break. And welcome back, everyone, to Beyond the Forecast. Now we're going to peek into, again, our Beyond the Forecast podcast, our second episode that we did. That was live, where you could interact with us discussing severe weather from last week. Really, the system that impacted us from last week, I should say. The ice, but also severe weather, just the big mess that was that system. So here's meteorologist Haley Fischetti and I discussing that system. Check it out.
But there was a lot of warnings, and that was Sunday afternoon. So Sunday afternoon, I was sitting here working on Beyond the Forecast, and Joe walked in, and we just got a severe thunderstorm watch. Mm-hmm. What up, Sean? More tacos soon. Exactly. I'm talking about a watch, right? Taco watch. We went to Taco Watch. And then I was like, okay, well, I don't foresee anything getting this far north.
No.
And then all of a sudden we went into taco warning. We're going to demolish these tacos. So we have tacos, and I was looking at it, and all it was wind. And so I was like, okay, Michigan State's on, and I don't want to bust into the game for a severe thunderstorm warning. Mm-hmm. We'll throw up the cycler. We'll throw
if anything gets too crazy,
Facebook
you're ready to
and all
go.
the stuff. Right. And then literally within 5 minutes of not even 5 minutes of the severe thunderstorm warning going up, they issued a tornado warning. Now, our policy...
And that's game time.
And that's game time for me and for our team. And for our policy, it doesn't matter where at in our viewing area, fringe or not, a tornado warning, we are going to break in and be with it from start to finish.
100%.
And if there was a good thing with this, it was the halftime of the basketball game.
It was, yeah.
I was like, this isn't going to be up very long, but I need to get in, and I need to prep people, save people's lives if they're in the way. Mm-hmm. And when I popped up and started talking, there was two immediate spots of velocity and rotation that I was like, I need to focus on these. These are in our viewing area.
Right.
And that's where I stuck to. Showed a little bit of the line otherwise, but there was definite signature of rotation. If not, tornado could be on ground.
I mean, I was home watching it, and I could see it on being like, oh, there it is. That's what's happening.
So ran through the tornado warning, kept everybody prepped and safe. For those that were in Montcalm County, southern Mecosta County, they did reach out, and they did say, some asked, can I come out of my basement now?
Yeah.
I was glad that we were to be able to reach those people. Now, a side note, we reach 36 counties.
Yes.
So we go all the way up to the Lake Superior shoreline, all the way just south of M46. It's not a huge portion of M46, but that is how far our signal goes.
But it's a portion.
It's a portion. And that includes northern Montcalm, northern Gratiot,
Newaygo County.
Southern Newaygo County. Those are the fringe areas, but we are on TV there. We have viewers there that write into us every day.
Exactly.
And send us emails.
And for a lot of people, we were getting, obviously, people's comments. We got a lot of comments of being like, oh, Grand Rapids will handle it. I don't think people realize the true scope of, like, what viewing area covers what viewing area.
So there you go. Every Tuesday, 10 a.m., you can sit down with me and Haley, and we'll discuss a topic. This week, obviously, we're going to be talking about fire danger, dry conditions, fire weather, All of that we're going to be talking about tomorrow at 10 a.m. on the Beyond the Forecast Facebook page, the 9 10 News YouTube channel, as well as my professional Facebook page, and we'll share it over on the 9 10 News Facebook page as well. But that does it for our first episode of Fire Danger, Fire Weather Week here on Beyond the Forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Michael Stevens, and for Meteorologist John Gross and Meteorologist Haley Fischetti, have a wonderful and safe day. Be good, be safe, take care. We'll see you here tomorrow on Beyond the Forecast. Bye, everybody.